Gemini, karmic lessons from your past that are the key to your spiritual growth. The journey of a Gemini soul has never been one of stillness. From the moment you entered this world, your spirit has been pulled in many directions, like the restless winds of late spring that refuse to settle. You have always felt that life carries within it a series of hidden messages, subtle whispers from the past that arrive as patterns, relationships, and choices repeating themselves again and again. At times, it may feel like déjà vu. At others, like a heavy déjà vu, a life you've already lived, only be faced once more with the same trials. These are not coincidences. Dear Gemini, they are the karmic threads weaving the fabric of your existence, patiently inviting you to awaken. To embrace your karmic lessons is to step into the deepest river of your own soul, a current that moves far beyond logic and the fleeting chatter of the mind. For you, this process often begins with curiosity. Questions about why certain doors close, why you are magnetically drawn to particular people, or why your heart sometimes aches with stories you cannot fully remember. The answers lie not in random chance, but in your spiritual lineage, in the karmic echoes of your past. And so, in this sacred exploration together, let us uncover the keys to your spiritual growth. If these words resonate with your heart, I invite you gently to like, share, and subscribe, so that our circle of seekers may continue to grow. Because each insight we awaken together brings us closer to remembering who we truly are. For Gemini, karmic lessons often begin with the patterns of communication and truth. From a young age, you may have noticed that words carry an almost mystical power in your life. Conversations, promises, and misunderstandings often become turning points that alter your path in unexpected ways. This is no accident. One of your deepest karmic imprints is the responsibility of language, how you use it, how you misuse it, and how it reflects the truth of your being. In past lifetimes, Gemini souls have often been storytellers, scribes, messengers, or even tricksters. With such roles comes a double-edged sword of influence, the ability to inspire or to deceive, to heal or to wound. This legacy echoes into your present incarnation, where you are constantly being tested on whether your words align with your heart. Have you noticed how quickly lies, even small ones, unravel in your life? How secrets eventually surface, leaving you exposed? That is karma reminding you that dishonesty is not your path. Your soul is learning that authenticity in speech is not just a moral ideal, but a spiritual necessity. Consider the relationships that have shaped you most deeply. Perhaps you had a friend who betrayed your trust with careless gossip, or a partner who promised forever but disappeared when challenges arose. As painful as these experiences were, they held a mirror to your own journey. They asked, do you also speak without considering the impact? Do you commit to ideas, projects, or people with enthusiasm, only to withdraw when your restless nature seeks novelty elsewhere? These are not random frustrations. They are karmic lessons in accountability, urging you to understand that words are contracts written in the invisible realms of spirit. Many Geminis feel a karmic pull toward situations where they are forced to confront the consequences of speech. Maybe you've lost opportunities because of impulsive comments, or perhaps you've been misunderstood in ways that cause unnecessary conflict. Yet underneath the discomfort lies a sacred invitation to transform the gift of communication into an instrument of clarity and healing. When you begin to pause before speaking, when you learn to listen with your whole being, and when you choose words that resonate with the truth of your heart, you fulfill one of your greatest karmic purposes. Real-life examples show how profound this lesson can be. Take the story of a Gemini artist who once found herself caught in a storm of criticism because her words online were interpreted as arrogant and dismissive. The backlash forced her into deep reflection. Instead of retreating in shame, she chose to clarify her intention publicly, to speak with humility and compassion, and to use the platform not as a stage for ego but as a bridge of connection. Through this, she discovered a greater resonance with her audience than she had ever known before. Her karmic trial became a catalyst for authentic self-expression. Or consider the Gemini teacher who noticed that when he spoke without care, his students grew restless and disengaged. But when he shared stories with vulnerability, when he admitted his struggles, the classroom transformed into a sacred circle of trust. The karmic lesson here was not about speaking perfectly, but about speaking honestly, allowing truth to move through him as a healing force. For you, too, the invitation is clear. Each karmic cycle you encounter in this lifetime asks you to recognize that words shape reality. When you speak with awareness, you open doors, opportunities, harmony, and spiritual growth. When you fall into the shadow of manipulation, exaggeration, or avoidance of truth, those same doors close, teaching you the importance of alignment. The key is not to fear mistakes. You will stumble, as all souls do, but to recognize that each stumble is a stepping stone guiding you toward integrity. The karmic pattern of communication, then, is not just about learning to say the right thing. It is about embodying truth so fully that your words naturally reflect the depth of your spirit. Gemini, your task is to remember that language is not trivial. It is energy, vibration, a sacred current that carries the essence of your soul out into the world. When you honor this, you begin to transform not only your own destiny, but also the lives of those who listen. And in that transformation lies the beginning of your true spiritual growth. Another karmic lesson that Gemini must face lies in the realm of duality and choice. More than any other sign, you embody the paradox of being two things at once. Light and shadow, confident and uncertain, deeply connected yet fiercely independent. This duality is not a flaw. It is a karmic inheritance. In past lifetimes, you may have struggled with indecision, constantly swinging between paths, afraid to commit to one truth out of fear of losing another. In this life, that restlessness often follows you like a shadow, urging you to learn discernment. Your karmic challenge is to understand that while you may hold two perspectives at once, growth comes from integrating them, not escaping into one and abandoning the other. Think of the times you've been caught between two choices, two careers, two lovers, two visions of who you might become. On the surface, these struggles seem to be about practical decisions, but at the spiritual level they are deeper questions. Will you run from discomfort, or will you sit with attention until clarity arises? The karmic lesson for Gemini is patience in ambiguity. Your soul is learning that rushing to escape indecision only recreates the same cycles, while allowing yourself to breathe into uncertainty often opens a new path that transcends a false duality. Many Geminis find themselves in karmic loops where they chase novelty, fearing stagnation, only to realize that what they are running from is not boredom, but the intimacy of depth. Perhaps you experienced relationships where you felt trapped once the excitement faded, only to end things prematurely and later feel a lingering ache of unfinished business. Or maybe you jumped from one career path to another, exhilarated by new beginnings, but haunted by the sense of never fully mastering anything. These patterns are not failures. They are karmic teachings asking you to find the sacred middle path. The art of staying long enough for transformation to occur without denying your need for freedom. Real stories highlight this karmic struggle vividly. A Gemini musician once confessed that he never finished an album because, halfway through, the spark always seemed to vanish. He believed this meant he lacked discipline, but in truth, his soul was teaching him to look at creation not as a sprint of inspiration, but as a journey through cycles, some bright, some heavy. Once he embraced the discomfort of the middle phase, staying present even when the work felt dull, he finally completed his masterpiece. The karmic gift was not only the album, but also the deeper self-trust that blossomed when he proved to himself that he could hold both inspiration and perseverance together. Another Gemini, a woman torn between two lovers, realized through painful endings that the lesson was not about choosing one over the other, but about choosing herself. She had been projecting different aspects of her soul into each partner, one reflecting her adventurous spirit, the other her desire for grounding. When she reclaimed those parts within herself, she no longer felt fragmented. This integration freed her from repeating the cycle of searching for completion in others, a karmic turning point that allowed her to love from wholeness rather than lack. For you, Gemini, this lesson asks you to stop fearing contradiction. Your soul was born to hold paradox, to embody multiplicity, to teach others that truth is not singular but layered. But the karmic key is integration. When you stop running from the tension of opposites and instead weave them together, you move into spiritual maturity. It is like learning to balance on a rope stretched between two worlds. You cannot plant both feet firmly, yet you also cannot keep leaping from side to side. The balance is found in movement, in presence, in trust. This karmic lesson also reveals itself in the realm of identity. You may often ask, who am I really? Am I the intellectual who seeks knowledge, or the wanderer who seeks experience? The answer is both and neither. Your karmic journey is to stop defining yourself by fragments and instead accept that you are a living mosaic, an ever-shifting constellation of possibilities. By honoring the whole rather than clinging to one piece, you break free from cycles of confusion. The lesson of duality and choice, then, is not about forcing yourself into permanence or erasing your restless spirit. It is about learning the spiritual art of discernment, knowing when to explore and when to deepen, when to speak and when to listen, when to hold on and when to release. Each choice becomes less about right or wrong and more about alignment with your highest truth. Gemini, your karmic inheritance has always been the challenge of navigating multiplicity. But hidden within this challenge is your greatest gift, the ability to bridge opposites, to dance between worlds, and to teach others that life is not about picking one truth over another, but about learning to hold the complexity of the soul with grace. When you embrace this, you no longer feel torn apart by your duality. Instead, you discover that the very paradox you once feared is the key to your spiritual growth. Another karmic lesson for Gemini emerges in the arena of relationships and trust. More than many other signs, you are drawn to connections that feel electric, conversations that spark like lightning, souls that make you feel both seen and challenged. Yet woven into these connections is often a karmic pattern of inconsistency, betrayal, or misunderstanding. At times, it feels as though your heart longs for intimacy, while another part of you fears being trapped by it. This paradox is not a weakness. It is part of your karmic curriculum. In past lifetimes, Gemini souls may have been wanderers, messengers who carried stories from one place to another, merchants who moved from city to city, or seekers of wisdom who never stayed in one temple for too long. This nomadic energy lives in you still, making freedom a sacred necessity. Yet, with it comes a karmic lesson. To understand that true freedom is not the absence of bonds, but the choice to remain present within them. Have you noticed how your relationships often begin with an intoxicating spark, only to cool when the novelty fades? Or how you sometimes keep one foot out the door, even in your most committed connections, as if preparing for escape? These are not flaws of character, but echoes of karmic memory, patterns urging you to learn that love is not meant to be another adventure to consume and discard. Love, for you, is the arena where your spirit is asked to stay, to deepen, to build trust even when it feels uncomfortable. Many Geminis experience karmic mirrors through betrayal. You may have been betrayed, or you may have betrayed another, not out of malice, but out of a restless search for something more. Both experiences serve as teachers. Being betrayed shows you the pain of instability. Betraying another reveals the weight of leaving wounds behind. In both cases, the lesson is the same: to honor the sacredness of human hearts and understand that trust is the foundation upon which true freedom is built. Consider the story of a Gemini entrepreneur who confessed that he used to treat relationships like business ventures, exciting at first, but easily abandoned when challenges arose. Over time, he realized that the very emptiness he felt after each ending was not a call for more novelty, but a karmic push to cultivate depth. When he finally stayed with a partner long enough to work through conflict, he discovered a love richer than anything fleeting connections could offer. The karmic lesson became clear. Freedom was not about leaving, but about choosing again and again with awareness. Another Gemini, a woman who had always feared commitment, once admitted that she kept sabotaging relationships by pulling away whenever things became serious. It was only when she entered therapy and explored her karmic wounds that she realized her fear was not of the partner, but of herself, of being fully seen, of surrendering her restless spirit into intimacy. By facing this fear, she broke free from a cycle that had followed her across lifetimes. She learned that true intimacy does not chain her spirit, but magnifies it, allowing her dual nature to dance in harmony with another. For you, Gemini, this karmic lesson asks you to examine the way you approach love, friendship, and trust. Do you use your charm to avoid vulnerability? Do you mistake freedom for detachment? Or do you dare to stay present, to allow love to transform you through its challenges as much as its joys? The gift hidden in this karmic cycle is profound. When you learn to trust, not blindly, but with discernment, you discover that relationships are not cages but wings. You realize that commitment is not the end of freedom, but the expansion of it. because it gives you a safe space to explore the many facets of your soul without fear of abandonment. This lesson extends beyond romance into all your connections. In friendships, you may feel tempted to drift away when life changes, yet karmic wisdom invites you to see the beauty of roots as well as wings. In family, you may resist obligations, yet the karmic lesson reminds you that honoring your bonds does not diminish your individuality, but enriches it. Ultimately, Gemini, your karmic path in relationships is not about choosing between freedom and love. It is about discovering that the two are not opposites at all. True freedom comes when you no longer run from intimacy, and true love comes when you embrace another without losing yourself. When you integrate this truth, you begin to break the cycles of restlessness, betrayal, and inconsistency that have followed you across lifetimes. And in that breaking, you step into a new way of being, a way where trust becomes your foundation, and love becomes a key to your spiritual growth. Another karmic lesson for Gemini is tied to the deeper realm of self-worth and purpose. Because your mind is constantly moving, exploring, and reaching for new experiences, it can sometimes feel as though you are endlessly searching but never quite arriving. Beneath this restlessness lies an ancient karmic wound, the belief that your worth must be proven through doing, achieving, or constantly reinventing yourself. This lesson often plays out in cycles of overextension, saying yes to too many opportunities, scattering your energy, or chasing external validation instead of trusting the quiet wisdom within. In many past lifetimes, Gemini souls were admired for their adaptability, intelligence, and ability to weave between worlds. You may have been scholars, performers, or envoys, always valued for your brilliance, but rarely given space to simply be. This karmic imprint lingers in your present life, creating an unconscious pressure to keep proving your value through productivity, cleverness, or charm. Yet the truth your soul seeks to learn is that worth is inherent. It does not require performance. Have you noticed how exhaustion often arrives after periods of overactivity, leaving you questioning whether all the effort truly matters? Or how the applause from others, though intoxicating for a moment, quickly fades and leaves you hungry for the next validation? These moments are not signs of failure, but karmic invitations to step out of the cycle of proving and into the truth of being. Many Geminis find themselves at turning points where they feel lost, as though the path ahead is suddenly void of meaning. This void, though uncomfortable, is sacred. It is karma gently removing the distractions, so that you may discover your worth is not tied to external results, but to your inner alignment. One Gemini I once knew was a successful journalist who lived for the thrill of breaking stories, but eventually, the constant chase left her hollow. She confessed that despite recognition and success, she felt like a fraud. Her karmic turning point came when she allowed herself to step away from the spotlight and reconnect with her love of writing purely for expression, without agenda. In that stillness, she rediscovered her authentic voice, and with it, the deeper purpose her soul had been yearning for all along. Another Gemini, a young man who kept hopping from one project to another, always seeking the next big idea, eventually realized he was not running toward anything but away from the fear of insignificance. When he confronted this fear, he saw that the real lesson was not about doing more, but about honoring his energy, channeling it into fewer but more meaningful pursuits. By choosing depth over dispersion, he found not only success, but profound peace he had never known. For you, Gemini, the karmic lesson of self-worth is about learning to trust that you are enough exactly as you are. Your value is not measured by how much you produce, how many people you impress, or how quickly you adapt. Your worth is eternal, rooted in the very essence of your being. When you align with this truth, your purpose naturally reveals itself, not as something chased frantically, but as something that flows through you. This lesson also asks you to embrace silence, a practice that may feel foreign to your restless mind. In the stillness, you confront the fears you often outrun, the fear of emptiness, the fear of irrelevance, the fear of being unseen. Yet within that silence lies a revelation that you are not empty but vast, not irrelevant but essential, not unseen but profoundly held by the universe. The karmic cycle of seeking worth through action ends when you allow yourself to rest in being. When you honor your inherent value, you begin to choose differently. You stop scattering your energy across endless distractions, and instead focus on what truly resonates with your soul. You no longer chase validation but attract authentic recognition, not because you seek it, but because you embody it. Gemini, your karmic path here is not about giving up your curiosity or your gift of multiplicity. It is about anchoring those gifts in a deep, knowing that you are already enough. When you integrate this lesson, your actions flow not from fear of being insignificant, but from the joy of creation, connection, and service. And it is in this integration that your true spiritual growth unfolds. The final karmic lesson for Gemini weaves together all the others, is about reclaiming spiritual presence in a world that constantly tempts you to scatter your light. Your duality, your restless mind, your longing for connection and freedom. All of these are sacred threads, yet without presence, they easily unravel into distraction. The karmic challenge here is not to silence your nature, but to learn how to anchor it, so that your gifts may fully blossom. In many past lifetimes, Gemini souls may have lived at the edge of societies, as travelers, messengers, entertainers, or guides. Your role was often to move between places, carrying stories, ideas, or teachings from one realm to another. The danger of such roles was always the same: losing yourself in the endless motion, mistaking movement for meaning. And so, in this life, you're called again to ask, how can I root myself deeply enough that my wings may carry me higher? This karmic lesson often arrives through experiences of overwhelm. You may feel burned out by too many commitments, torn between obligations, or unable to quiet the chatter of your mind long enough to hear your soul. These are not punishments, but signals that you have strayed too far from the center. Presence is the antidote, and yet it is also the very medicine your soul has resisted across lifetimes. To be present is to stop running, to meet yourself exactly where you are, without needing another adventure to escape into. Consider the Gemini writer who once confessed that he had notebooks filled with half-finished stories. Each beginning thrilled him, but he abandoned them once the excitement faded. His karmic lesson was not about producing more, but about cultivating presence, staying with one story long enough to let it transform him. When he finally committed to finishing, he discovered that the process itself became a mirror, revealing his fears, his doubts, and ultimately his resilience. Through presence, he not only completed the story, but also stepped into a new depth of self-knowledge. Another Gemini, a healer, shared that she used to drift from one spiritual practice to another, yoga, meditation, astrology, energy work, without fully grounding in any. Though she gained knowledge, she never felt whole. Her turning point came when she stopped seeking the perfect path and instead devoted herself to presence within a single practice. Through consistency, she discovered that the power was never in the practice itself, but in her willingness to stay. Presence became the portal through which she experienced true spiritual growth. For you, Gemini, the karmic invitation is to recognize that presence does not mean stagnation. It is not a prison, but a doorway. When you anchor yourself in the now, your restless spirit is not chained but freed, because it no longer has to run from the void. In presence, you discover that every conversation can be sacred, every choice a path of growth, every relationship an opportunity to embody truth. The karmic cycles of distraction, inconsistency, and fragmentation dissolve when you choose to be fully here. This lesson is perhaps the most difficult for Gemini, because it requires you to face the silence within, to surrender the illusion that constant motion equates to progress. But it is also the most rewarding, for in presence, all your other karmic lessons find their resolution. Your words align with truth, because you are not speaking from impulse, but from grounded awareness. Your duality finds harmony, because you are not torn between past and future, but centered in the present. Your relationships deepen, because you are truly with the other person, not half-absent in your own restless thoughts. Your self-worth solidifies, because you no longer tie to what you have done or might do, but to the radiant truth of who you are now. Gemini, your final karmic lesson is simple yet profound. Stay. Stay long enough to feel. Stay long enough to grow roots. Stay long enough to finish the story your soul has come to tell. The freedom you seek is not out there in the next adventure. It is here, in this breath, in this moment, in this presence. When you embrace this truth, you transform not only your own spiritual journey, but also become a beacon for others, showing them that presence is the greatest liberation of all. Gemini, your karmic path has never been about simplicity. It is a winding road full of crossroads, mirrors, and paradoxes. You came into this life carrying the echoes of lifetimes where words were misused, choices left unresolved, relationships broken before they could blossom, and self-worth measured by endless motion. And yet, these challenges are not here to punish you. They are sacred teachers, shaping you into a soul who learns to honor the power of truth, the beauty of integration, the depth of trust, the stillness of inherent worth, and the transformative freedom of presence. When you look back at the patterns that have repeated in your life, see them not as failures, but as invitations. Every misunderstanding was a chance to refine your voice. Every restless decision was a call to learn patience. Every heartbreak was a doorway into deeper love. Every moment of exhaustion was a reminder to root yourself in being. And every time you return to presence, even briefly, you tasted the liberation your soul has been seeking across lifetimes. The journey of spiritual growth is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you already are beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the fear. You are both the wanderer and the anchor, the storyteller and the listener, the seeker and the sanctuary. Your karmic lessons are not burdens. They are keys. And when you choose to unlock them, you step into a life that is not defined by running, proving, or searching, but by embodying the wisdom your soul has carried for ages. As you continue walking this path, know that you are not alone. Each step you take towards truth, integration, and presence ripples out into the collective, inspiring others to face their own karmic patterns with courage and grace. If these words have stirred something within you, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. Your story may be the mirror that helps another Gemini or another seeker see themselves more clearly, and together, we weave a tapestry of growth, healing, and remembrance